Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazoo?
Yes. Next item is public comments. Is there anybody?
I would just like to note that Miss Brittany Higginbotham's having a birthday on Friday.
I'll take all gifts and presents or whatever. Happy birthday to you.
John's acting like no.
And I'm really gonna be old.
Mr. Ackman's back there smiling big about it, Miss Brittany.
He knows I'm old. You're looking at me.
Next item is the consent agenda.
We have the previous meeting minutes, paying the bills, school activity fund reports, and the treasurer's monthly report. Ms. Collins.
Speed it up so quick.
Well, I think it's because we've already been here meeting. I guess that's why we're just rolling right along.
All right, the treasurer's report for the month of June 2023. The balance on hand at the beginning of the month was $20,982,863.82. Receipts for the month were $3,812,350.62. Total of the receipts and beginning balance together comes to $24,795,214.44. And disbursements for the month were $6,647,558.57. And that brings our balance at the close of the month to $18,147,655.87. In fund balances for the general fund, Fund 1, $5,162,779.23. In special projects, Fund 2, $381,561.51. In district activity, Fund 21, $13,283.93. Capital outlay, Fund 310, $281,903 even. FSPK building fund, Fund 320, $1,391,661.70. Construction, Fund 360, $9,994,388.40. Debt service, Fund 400, $0. Food service, Fund 51, $918,450.40. Fiduciary fund, Fund 7,000, $3,627.70. That brings our total cash and bank for all the funds to $18,147,655.87.
So, Ms. Carnes. There are no changes or amendments. I recommend approval of the consent agenda items. I'll second. Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazoo?
Yes. Next item, BG1 Old Area Technology Center renovation.
As board members know, and just for the purpose of the audience, we met with representatives from Branscombe Construction, and Mr. Jonathan Smith and Mr. Steve Branscombe was present. David Cheek, engineer with CMTA Engineering Firm, and Allison Cummings with Sherman Carter Barnhart to talk about our Old Area Technology Center and the science labs prior to the start of this meeting and the special meeting. So attached to one of the first items to take action on is the BG1 for the Old Area Technology Center. That you all know, saw the scope of that project at the special meeting. Projected cost of $3,215,000. $128,223 of that amount is reserved for contingency. So I recommend approval of the BG1 for the Old Area Technology Center renovation as presented and submitted to the Kentucky Department of Education for approval. And again, just for information wise, this building, the use of it, it'll be full. The old buildings behind the middle school, all the occupants of that will need to relocate because those buildings have to be torn down as part of the middle school project. And then we'll also have Gerald TC, we'll have the alternative school, we'll have the dance team can be in there, we'll have the special ed annexes, we'll have the Healthy Kids Clinic, gifted talented offices, our mental health specialist will be in there. So it's going to be a busy location and a nice renovated space for to use for really a true multi-purpose facility. Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazoo?
Yes. Old Area Technology Center schematic designs documents.
So these are all the documents that we set right there at that table and went over. So I recommend approval of the schematic design documents for the Old Area Technology Center and authorization to submit the documents to the Kentucky Department of Education for review and approval.
I make a motion to that effect.
Roll.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Kazoo?
Yes. Next item, BG one, BG two, BG three for Russell County High School Science Classrooms Lab Renovation Project.
Okay, and again, I know, talked about, went all through all this at the special call meeting, so we're taking action on these items now. The BG1, which is the project application form for the high school science labs and renovation. The BG2, it outlines those energy specs, the criteria, and the BG3 is a statement of probable cost, which breaks down some line items on that BG1 a little bit more. The total cost of the BG1, I'll just go over here, $1,376,047.60, and again, that is using ARP funds, the stimulus funds, to do those science classroom labs. So I recommend approval of BG1, 2, and 3 for Russell County High School science labs, or science classroom lab renovation project, that they be approved as presented.
I make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Kazoo?
Yes. 10, Russell County High School Science Classrooms Lab Renovation Schematic Design.
So again, you all seen all these documents, that's what the architects and the engineers went through with you at that meeting. So I recommend approval of the schematic design documents for Russell County High School science classrooms and lab renovation projects, and then authorization to submit the documents to the Kentucky Department of Education for review and approval.
Make the motion to that effect.
Second.
Second.
Roll.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Kazoo?
Yes.
Seems like we're going fast, but we started at 3:30.
Next item, continuing right along with the same subject, Russell County High School Science Classrooms Lab Renovation Construction Documents and advertise to receive bids.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, Mr. Oh, I'm sorry, okay. These are the construction documents for the Russell County High School Science Lab and Renovation Project, and they will, the sample advertisement there will be with your all's approval. We will take that, advertise it for the project, and then we'll bring it back to you all, obviously, to accept the bids. We'll have a pre-bid meeting and all that. So I recommend approval of the construction documents for Russell County High School Science Labs, Classrooms Project, and authorization to advertise the bid for bids, advertise to receive bids. Sorry.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Kazoo?
Yes.
So we have that, all of those are done.
Okay. Item 12, job descriptions and positions.
So, Ms. Dix, if you want to come on up, or sit there, or however you want to do it. But Ms. Dix will talk with us about some needs for some positions. I did amend from the only one speech pathologist helps. Asking to take action on this evening will be the itinerant preschool position, but she's got some needs there in the program that she wants to talk to the board about, and then we can take action on that.
Seems like this year, and I guess everybody blames everything on COVID, but the kids that we're seeing coming into preschool right now are having some pretty significant needs. And our speech numbers have really gone up, but we've had kids, don't know what the reason is, if they're just now getting in to be evaluated. But we have a lot of children coming in already identified with autism that haven't had any services or anything. So they're not coming to us for first steps, they're coming to us without interventions. And so right now our enrollment, we're about with our returning students, we are right at 100. We have 17, I think, coming back to Jamestown Elementary preschool. So all of those children will have IEPs because they came as 3-year-olds, plus the kids that are coming in. So specifically to Jamestown, but the same issue at each building. We have several kids that just have significant needs that we will be placing with IEPs that haven't had them. And we have a lot of children that already have IEPs that we have to monitor. And that's very hard for the teachers. I'll speak like Miss Mary Jo, she could have up to 40, but it's very hard to monitor those IEPs and things with the number of kids that she has, and that's for any classroom teacher. So I was hoping that we could have an itinerant district position that would possibly work like at Jamestown 2 days to help do just a lot of the paperwork, the referral. Make sure that, especially if they're coming in as 4-year-olds that haven't been referred, we have to make sure that they get referred before they go to kindergarten or they're going in without support and needs.
And you've got one of those from the physician's office just today, or
We
you
have,
share that with me?
yes. And I even checked with Ms. Webb today to make sure that we hadn't heard anything from this child coming in 5 years and 4 months, and we have no knowledge of the name of the child or anything coming in with a referral for autism. So I'm suspecting that that child didn't get to have the intervention and services that they need. So I'm hoping that we can have a position that will be an itinerant to help with some of these kids going in, working one-on-one, especially with behavior issues, working with them on things that because it's going to be a hard transition for some of these children, especially if they've not had any formal structure. And we've had a similar position, but it's not exactly, not just to work. We had Miss Mary Jo a few years ago, went from Jamestown because of the numbers, and then would go back to Salem. But I don't know if we've had a district itinerant that would do exactly this. And then we have new teachers, so they're going to be learning as well as we go along through this process. We've got 4 in option 6 out of 5 right now, which they're learning the paperwork and those kind of things. But they do need support in the classroom to be able to manage it all.
You want to talk some about the other one right now?
The other one, Mr. Ford and I don't really know what to call it. We were talking about that today.
Kind of working on the job description.
Yeah, kind of working
To
on the
bring it
job
to you all at a
description.
future time.
We have Miss Vicki Kane, who's working as a consultant, and she's been absolutely wonderful to go out into the district as far as to just help teachers, because it's really hard when they need someone, they just need to pick up the phone and be able to call. But she's tried to manage ClassWorks as a lead on ClassWorks, which has been a really good program for us. But also to go anytime we're having compliance or whatever teacher needs her, so she's tried to do that. So especially at the middle school, we have 3 new teachers coming in that will need a lot of support this year. I'm not sure, Mr. Ford, 2 of them are option 6, maybe is one of them. I'm not even certain.
2 are, well, one's option 6, one's in the proficiency route, and then one is fully certified.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
That
yes.
proficiency route's very similar to the option 6.
They do have.
Ms. Reed, I said that correct, didn't I?
That is
Yeah,
right.
they do have a teaching certificate, but it's not in special education, so they're just starting their process, so they'll need support. So like, Ms. Kane has had a hard time trying to cover all of the buildings to do this. So TSI is the middle school, still in that, and I don't know when we will know if we're out of that. But certainly that building needs quite a bit of support, and the state expects us to have support them in trying to close that gap for students with special needs. And at the high school, same. Vicki's been able to get there a lot, try to help them. I do a lot through the email and things with them and answer questions and give examples and stuff. But looking at possibly and even support, not necessarily. Several years ago, we had Kim Weston do a grant that helped do preschool, but she also helped me with some of the administrative things that we have there. And so looking at possibly some assistance there and use that person also as a consultant, and certainly through child count, and that's a big time. Through lead, a lot of times those things pop up, and that's your whole focus. And so sometimes, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I need help because we have 500 some students that have IEPs. And sometimes any of those students' parents or teachers or whatever, depending on what's happening, can call. And sometimes
And that's the
it's
highest
me.
number we've had now for several years.
Yes, it is, and that's gone up drastically. 3 years ago, we were like 335, and then we've had a lot of people moving in, actually.
And that includes speech numbers,
Yes,
speech only students.
speech only, that includes preschool with IEPs as
Yes.
well. But with that being said,
That's still a lot.
sometimes I don't need as much assistance as other times. Sometimes it's hard to get, like June and July, lots of reports are due. And then work with school, that's just lot of information. Child count, and we do the preschool child count twice now. We do it in December and March to get our numbers, and then we have to, preschool's changed a lot. We have all the indicators now to answer just like we do special education. So it's becoming, and then we do the budgets not only in Munis, but they also have everything to be put into GMAP now, and we're monitoring on that. And then
Speaking of indicators, before I forget, not to interrupt you, I shared that with them, that we met requirements. But while you're standing there, Ms. Dick, share that, because that's kudos to you and your department and all our special ed teachers and our principals and everybody. That's, not every district, I talked about that, makes that.
we've been very fortunate.
Yes.
It's called needs determinations, and they have certain indicators that if you don't have 100%, you don't meet that indicator. So, for example, indicator 13 is secondary transition paperwork, and it's all based on paperwork on that. It's also, if you miss a timeline, you're going to be marked down, those kind of things. So anyway, with this district, they kind of grade their district every year based on timeliness of reports, meeting all our paperwork requirements. They kind of rate that and determine whether or not we get an audit, if I understand it correctly, based on whether or not we meet determinations. And the letter, if it doesn't say meets determinations, we kind of go in a pool. And we get a lot of extra points for not meeting that, which is not a good thing. It means you've got all these points against you, so we're going to come and audit you. And we have a financial audit to the entire district, pretty much our department, inventory, all those things. So it is a hard thing to get. I know there's districts that wish they had that. We've been able to meet that. I know probably before I came here, we've been able to meet that. This is 11 years that we've had needs determinations. But it is a hard thing to get because that affects how the state looks at us as a district and how much assistance we need, how much oversight we need. So if we didn't get that for 2 years in a row, we would be a district that needs assistance, if I understand it correctly, and we would have an audit in that time. So with that being said, they're looking at GMAP, they're looking at whether we met our maintenance of effort, which I will share with you. We have already met this year, right, Ms. Carnes? We've met the criteria.
She says that with a smile.
So
That's a very big thing.
That is a
because
big thing.
you have to, in simple terms, you have to demonstrate that you're spending X amount of your general fund dollars compared to towards special education. That's a real simple layman's term to say it.
You can't spend less this year than you spent last year unless you can justify it by having a drop in your
Yes.
student population. So you don't want to go
Or a
way
child
above it
with
because you
specific
set that
need.
bar up. So next year you got to spend that much more, but you want to keep it where you're providing a good level of services. But yeah, you're always looking for ways you can help reduce that when you've got some of the qualifiers, because there's very few reasons you can reset that number. But if you're not careful, it can become a runaway train, and the next thing you know, you're having to put a lot of dollars into something that aren't really necessary.
We spend a lot of time going back. I know my first year we reworked it and kind of got it really manageable, I think I'd say. Looked at some things that we just hadn't considered, and they allowed us to go back and approve those.
Is that when Mr. Thacker came down?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we met with him, and so we just didn't take these in a timely manner or whatever. Can we just kind of restart the process? I think that was 2013-14. And so we try to keep it at that level, because what the state's looking at, like Mr. Ford said, if you have 400 children and you spent $2 million on those 400 children last year, you have 400 children next year, why are you just spending, half that amount? Are you taking that money and used it somewhere else instead of on the children that are generating it? And so they really, really monitor the maintenance of effort. But we know already that we have met that. But we're still working on it. We've got until July the 30th to bring it down some more. And that kind of, with your all's general funds, gives you more flexibility, if I'm explaining it. Do you all have questions or anything?
So at the next meeting, actually, I've talked to Mr. Kazsuk, we're gonna need a special call board meeting. We need to address some things for the teacher apprenticeship program and our code of conduct book, contract with the Donta before school starts, and then Ms. Dick and we can talk about this other job description at that meeting. But tonight, I am asking for approval for the itinerant preschool teacher position. That's the teacher that will go around and stick note into the preschool classrooms, and then we can talk about this other one.
And I think that, knowing that, the teachers knowing that they have some help coming in with some of our more challenging children, and this person would also, be able to join what we call the autism cadre. We've applied to be an autism site and have an autism cadre where from GREC they come and help us with training and those kind of things. And we, Ms. Blankenship and I have asked to be a part of that for Jamestown. And then, but only because Jamestown's being selected doesn't mean that that team can't be available to go help other children as needed. And they're going to do a training, I believe it's August the 3rd, let me make you aware of it. They're going to train the entire staff at Jamestown on strategies on working with children with autism. And that's going to be one of their training days, to be able to, you know, alleviate some of the frustration from the children, from the parents, the teachers, because these are big changes for these children when they come in. This- Yeah, and this person would be a part of the autism program and share those strategies as they learn on going, we're working with some of these.
All the teachers, all schools.
Yes. It is, you know, it is challenging, especially for parents, if they don't have the strategies, and some of them haven't been able to have the strategies, and sometimes the best thing we can do to help the children is just help work with the parents too, to explain, these are things, this is what it is, these are things that can help, and if we can do it consistently.
Yeah.
I don't either, Ms. Wilson, and that breaks my heart because the First Steps was not able to go into the homes. And so now we're just seeing some of these kids, but during COVID, they couldn't accept the kids because it's nearly 2 years that they
Just
can
recall,
go into.
if you don't, First Steps serves birth to 3, it's not with the school, but they hand the students off if they're still eligible to
Yes.
sit for special ed when they turn 3.
See, and
They
last
can
year,
start working.
I think it's called Indicator 11, maybe, I don't know. We've got 17 indicators that we turned in. We had 14 that came from First Steps, that 13 of them qualified with us, 13 students. Not just autism, but we have some of the more significant delays. We had 14 transitions, 13 of them qualified, and we have to have IEPs in place on the 3rd birthday they start school. And if we miss one, that's what's called a compliance indicator, we are not in compliance. We have to be at 100% on that.
By their 3rd birthday, they have to be ready.
And they start. When I enter Infinite Campus, I enter their start date as their 3rd birthday. So some of them are babies.
They are.
But they just not, this group that's coming in, and even last year to start, and through no fault of anyone, certainly not the school, not First Steps, we have a good relationship with them. They couldn't take the kids because they couldn't serve them because it's a home-based thing, and they weren't allowed through their agency to go into the
But
home.
they're babies when we get them 3.
They are babies.
They are babies.
Some of them, we just pick them up and we
Yeah.
carry them
Yeah,
around.
they're babies. Anything else, Ms. Dean?
No, any questions or anything?
I recommend
I
approval.
rambled, but-
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was gonna apologize, I rambled in different directions here, but, thank you all very much for hearing me.
I recommend approval of the itinerant preschool position. Okay. Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazook?
Yes. Yearbook and current events advisory.
One have updated yearbook advisors and current events advisors yearly stipends and retroactive for the payment to the 22-23 school year. These positions exist. We wanted to just bring it to the board's attention and to get all the schools consistent because it's kind of everywhere. The yearbook advisors at each school, they receive a stipend to facilitate the publishing of each school's yearbook, and that comes out of their sales of their yearbooks from each school. And then it comes to the board office, and then it's paid out through the payroll. And then the middle school and high school have the current events advisors to promote the school athletic events, extracurricular activities, meetings, and et cetera. The yearbook advisor for the high school is $1,600, middle school $600, and each elementary school $600. The current events advisor for high school and middle schools is $1,500. with like selling yearbooks, it goes into that account. They cut the board a check and it comes back to.
And this has already been.
We've been doing this, we're just trying to bring everything up to date and make it consistent between each of the schools.
That's not maybe leaving it there.
No, they just do it because they want to help. I recommend approval of the yearbook and current visitors, current advisor stipends and retroactive to the 22-23 school year.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Roll.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazook?
Yes. Permission for early entrance kindergarten.
We've had another student that met all the criteria for early enrollment in kindergarten. Pending your approval, the board's approval, the student will be enrolled at Russell Springs Elementary School for the 23-24 school year. I recommend the one student be granted permission for early enrollment in kindergarten for Russell County School District 23-24. So this makes our second student that meets criteria for early enrollment to kindergarten.
Motion. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Roll.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazook?
Yes. Next item is contract memorandum of agreements.
The following contracts, memorandums of agreements are attached for your review and approval. We have, you all know, we see these every year for, Ms. Dameron helps facilitate these. We have several for the mental health services, Brookside Great Counseling, Intrust Healthcare, New Hope Counseling, Second Mile Behavioral, Somerset Mental Health, and Specialized Alternatives for Families and Youth. And then we have the Russell County Sheriff's Department MOU for Russell Springs Elementary School and Salem Elementary School. That's noted in here, and Mr. Hoover and I have met, reviewed, and worked on that, and I sent that back to the Sheriff's Office, Mr. Hoover, for their input on all of that. One thing I will note that the times on that's a little bit different for each school. Mr. Reynolds and Ms. KJ, the time that they needed, the SRO there at their school varied just a little bit between, I'm trying to find what page that was on. There we go. So at Russell Springs Elementary School, report at 6:45 to 2:45, and then Salem Elementary School from 7 to 3. No overtime or anything like that unless it's approved by me or Mr. Greider or the building administrator, but this is just a really good agreement between the two entities to work with the Sheriff's Office. Again, this is necessitated by the need and the board picking up the cost for the two officers because the COPS grant was exhausted, which we noted that before. So this will be in place, ready to go. It does not change the current officers that's assigned. Mr. Bradshaw, Russell Springs, and Mr. Meyer, Officer Meyer at Salem Elementary School. Mr. Greider, do you have anything to add or anything to that?
I'll make the motion for that.
Roll.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazook?
Joe, you didn't visit enough on the bus.
Huh?
You didn't visit enough on
I've
the.
been warned.
He was just there.
I wasn't here that. I wasn't here that.
Next, accept or reject bids for 1993 International Genesis Snub-Nosed Bus and 1993 International Bus on handicap bus platform.
I was about to say, Mr. Murray, you was just there to raise the price up, but it's sealed bid. You couldn't put it up there. So we received several bids on the buses, with the winning bid to Mr. David McDonald for $2,651 for the 1993 International Genesis Snub-Nosed Bus. We had them from there all the way down to $450. And then also Mr. David McDonald for the 1993 International Bus on the handicap bus platform. Again, 5 different bids going from $2,351 down to $450. Mr. Wolfer and I were both very pleased with the bids that we received
I
on those
wonder how much
buses.
you thought they were.
So I recommend approval of the bid received from David McDonald on the 1993 International Genesis Snub-Nosed Bus and David McDonald on the 1993 International Bus on handicap bus platform.
I make a motion to that effect.
Second. Roll.
Okay, Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazook?
Yes. Okay, next item is accept or reject bids, 2 South Bend convection double stack electric ovens and 2 Wolf convection double stack ovens.
We received 2 bids on each of the South Bend convection double stack electric ovens and also on the Wolf convection ovens. One, Elizabeth Antle, $125, David McDonald would be $53, and then on the convection double stack Wolf ones, $350, Elizabeth Antle, and David McDonald, $53. So I recommend approval of the bid received from Elizabeth Antle on the 2 South Bend convection double stack electric ovens, and Elizabeth Antle on the 2 Wolf convection double stack ovens.
Second.
I'll say.
Roll.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham, Mr. Kazoo.
Yes. Next item is out of state and or overnight trips.
So the following groups have received approval from the superintendent for the following out-of-state or overnight trips. Best of luck to our bass fishing teams. This is all for them for their championship. The Junior Bassmaster National Championship at Lake Hartwell, Anderson, South Carolina, July 16th through 22nd, and then July 23rd through the 29th for the high school part of the other part was the junior, and also at Lake Hartwell in Anderson, South Carolina. You ever fish that lake?
No.
Nope. Okay. I recommend approval of out-of-state or overnight trips, and again, just the best of luck to the bass fishing team. They always represent us very, very well.
It's going on like that.
It is, yes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll second it.
Vote.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham. Mr. Kazoo.
Yes. Revised American Rescue Plan, ARP, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief ESSER Plan.
So we have to have a plan, and we currently have a plan of how we're spending and using the American Rescue Plan, ESSER plan funds. And so this plan that's revised is just simply to revise to include the security cameras that you all have already approved and the high school science lab renovations, because then it has to be posted on our website. They cross-reference that in GMAP, our consultants do that at the State Department of Education, and then reference back that where we're spending those funds are also noted in our plan. And so it's a formality as part of that goes. But the only amendments that's been made to the previous editions of the plan are just the addition of the science labs and the school security cameras with that. So I recommend approval of the revised American Rescue Plan, elementary and secondary school emergency relief, which is ESSER plan as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Roll.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
it. Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham,
Yes.
Mr. Kazoo.
Yes. Next item is personnel reports.
Brittany Stearns, James Elementary School, resigned, instructional assistant. Tanya Rexrow, Russ County High School, resigned, head varsity softball coach. And Ms. Tanya, thank you for your service, and you stepped up in a transitional time and stuck around with us, and we appreciate what you've done for softball.
Thank
For
you.
how many years total?
Oh, long time.
Yeah, I know.
Long time.
You-
I've been
you-
around since the program began in
Heart and soul.
1988, so.
We appreciate all your years of service. I know that was
She was on the first team.
tough decision.
We should have went to state that year.
I know.
Tyler and Haley.
We did. It was at home run. They called her up because they told her she was sick.
Oh, but seriously, thank you.
Thank you.
Ellie Richardson, hired Russell Springs Elementary School. When you see these one-year instructional assistant positions, that's this is the ones being funded by the stimulus dollars.
Oh,
Jeff Turney, Russell County Middle School, hired a custodian. Michelle Roy, hired as James Elementary School as a clerk and cashier. That is not to be confused with Michelle Roy that just retired from Russell Springs. That's right. We've all joked about that though, Miss Joy. Miss Rita's gonna have to ask her. She's out of the classroom and into the kitchen. That's right.
Maybe over here.
Denise Lauder, Russell Springs Elementary School, hired as instructional assistant. Chrissy Taylor, hired as a custodian at Jamestown Elementary School. And Tammy Adamson at Jamestown resigned as the head cook.
Next item is public comments. Anybody have anything you'd like to bring up or talk about? If not, next item, Brenda.
Make a motion to adjourn. For the second time.
All in favor?
For the second time.
I tell you what, they